Digital connections turning into real-world romance. It sounds like a modern fairy tale, right? But what happens when someone treats a mysterious stranger as their personal diary for over a year, sharing their deepest thoughts with someone who barely responds?
That's such an intriguing way to look at this story. The statistics show that about 30% of modern relationships start online. But this one's different. It wasn't even meant to be a relationship at first.
You know what fascinates me most? The psychological aspect of using a stranger as a diary. Studies show that people often feel more comfortable sharing intimate details with someone they've never met, especially when there's physical distance involved.
Well, that explains why she kept writing even when his responses were so minimal. Just those one-word replies like, congratulations and yes.
And here's what's really interesting. Research shows that we fill in the blanks about people we meet online with idealized characteristics. It's called the hyper-personal effect, where limited communication actually leads to stronger emotional connections.
The way she documents this journey reminds me of how social media has changed modern storytelling. Every moment becomes part of this larger narrative.
Speaking of narratives, let's talk about the power of location in this story. Paris isn't just a backdrop, it's practically another character. Studies show that people are 30% more likely to take romantic risks when they're in unfamiliar environments.
Hmm, that actually explains her boldness in making that 4-kilometer walk to the station. The environment was giving her permission to be adventurous.
Exactly. And you know what's fascinating about the timing? This happened in 2017, right when studies showed a significant uptick in people meeting their online connections in real life, about a 40% increase from the previous year.
The preparation details really humanized the story. Getting her hair done, buying those earrings she knows she'll probably lose. It shows how we try to control what we can when facing uncertainty.
Well, psychologists actually have a term for that: anticipatory preparation. It's a coping mechanism where we focus on controllable details to manage anxiety about bigger uncertainties.
So if we think about her support network, Christina, her grandniece Martina, the group message to friends, how does that fit into the psychological picture?
That's such an important point. Research shows that having a support network increases our likelihood of taking positive risks by about 65%. When we share our plans with others, we're more likely to follow through.
The language barrier adds another fascinating layer. Using Google Translate instead of letting her fragile French stop her.
You know, studies on international dating show that couples who have to navigate language barriers often develop stronger nonverbal communication skills. It's like they're forced to connect on a different level.
The way she transforms these ordinary moments into something extraordinary really captures the essence of modern romance, doesn't it?
And here's what's really powerful. Research on modern relationships shows that successful couples often have this ability to find meaning in small moments. It's called positive sentiment override, where even mundane interactions are interpreted through a lens of optimism.
Well, that explains why she found such meaning in his minimal responses and those occasional flower pictures.
Exactly. And psychological studies show that this kind of meaning-making is actually crucial for emotional resilience. When she says, sometimes it's not the destination that counts, it's the courage of the journey, she's actually expressing a key principle of positive psychology.
The story really challenges our assumptions about online relationships, doesn't it? We often think of them as less authentic than face-to-face connections.
That's where recent research is really interesting. Studies show that online relationships where people gradually transition to in-person meetings often have stronger foundations than traditional relationships. It's because they've had time to develop emotional intimacy before physical presence comes into play.
The way she handles that transition from digital to real-world interaction seems really thoughtful and measured.
And that's actually crucial for success. Data shows that online connections that move to real-life meetings have a 28% higher chance of lasting when the transition is gradual and intentional rather than rushed.
Looking ahead, what do you think this kind of story tells us about the future of relationships?
Well, experts predict that by 2025, more than 50% of meaningful relationships will start online. But what's really interesting is how we're developing new social scripts for these transitions, like her question, am I better in pictures or in person? It shows we're becoming more self-aware about the gap between digital and real-world presence.
That's fascinating. So we're not just changing how we meet, but how we think about connection itself.
Exactly. And perhaps that's the real magic of this story. It shows us that in an increasingly digital world, the courage to make real connections still matters. Whether it's a coffee in Paris or a simple message saying, I'm here, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is show up and be present.
The Man from Paris. Welcome to The Man from Paris. Each Saturday, I'll share a new chapter from my novel, Mom's Son. The soul remains forever young. This is a story that begins in truth, in real memories, real emotions, and real people, and grows into something else, something magical, something just beneath the surface of the everyday. Inspired by my own journey, the story follows characters shaped by life, transformed by imagination. It's a blend of memory and urban fantasy, where the streets of Paris hold more than just shadows. They hold secrets, signs, echoes from another layer of reality. Each chapter is a step into that space between worlds, a diary, a portal, an invitation. So find a quiet moment, put on your headphones, and let yourself wander through memories, magic, and the mystery of what remains. Chapter 1. The Paris Diary. For more than a year, the man from Paris had become her diary, a silent diary to which she confided everything, fragments of the past, hopes of the present, dreams suspended in the future. He rarely replied. Only a few pictures now and then, landscapes, distant horizons, flowers. He knew she loved flowers. And she, even in his silence, continued to write. I finished my book, she wrote to him one day in January 2017. His response was short. Congratulations. Those words, though dry, felt like a seal. One that lingers more for what it doesn't say than for what it does. In February, she left for France. As always, she took the freight train for truckers, from Novara to Freiburg, crossing familiar landscapes and silences full of expectation. On Saturday evening, she passed by Reims, where he had a house among the vineyards. The countryside was wrapped in fog. There's fog in the Reims countryside, like back home, she wrote on WhatsApp. His reply was curt. Yes. Nothing more. She understood. It wouldn't happen. Not that day. She continued toward Paris. She stopped at a service area on the outskirts, one of many, a shelter of tin and diesel, waiting for something that perhaps would never come. That evening on Messenger, she received a message from a Parisian artist. A video call. An invitation. She politely declined. Her French was fragile, not strong enough to follow a conversation. She went to sleep. At dawn, she opened the curtain. The sky was pink, the air transparent, and a thought, like a whisper. I'm going to Paris. She sent a message to the man from Paris. If you're not in New York, but in Paris, since I dedicated a book to you, maybe you could offer me a coffee. Then she left the truck, walked 4 kilometers to the station in Meaux. She had decided. That morning, everything seemed aligned. The light, the silence, the decision. And even if he wouldn't meet her, she would still go. Because sometimes it's not the destination that counts. It's the courage of the journey. The Man from Paris. Chapter 2. The decision. She had gone to bed with a feeling of something unfinished. That morning she woke up with a smile. She turned on her phone. The usual notifications, messages, and his silence. But this time, something had changed. He had replied. Are you in Paris? She looked at the message, her heart racing. Yes, she typed with trembling fingers. He asked her if she wanted to have lunch together. She reread it over and over. After more than a year of messages, a real invitation. She stood up, looked at herself in the mirror, and smiled. She was in Paris. The day was ahead of her. And now, an unexpected date. She called her friend, Christina. He wrote to me. What did he say? He wants to see me. Today, for lunch. Then go. Don't even think about it. Go, she laughed. Her friend's voice was firm, excited. I'll go to the hairdresser, she said. You're in Paris, Juicy. Don't worry about money, just go. If you need it, I'll send it to you. The decision was made. She would go. But first, she wanted to look her best. She found a Frank Provost salon. The windows were elegant, the atmosphere welcoming. She went in and asked for a blow-dry. Her French was weak, but they were kind. She sat down, feeling like she was inside a romantic film. The hum of dryers, the light chatter, the faint background music. Everything was real, yet it felt like a dream. She sent him her location via Google Maps. Trying to look decent, she added. He replied, smile. That word made her heart leap. By mistake, she called her 13-year-old grandniece Martina and told her about the meeting. Are you nervous? The girl asked. Very, she replied. I'll tell you everything afterwards. She wrote a group message to her friends. It's happening. At noon, she realized she had no earrings. She felt bare. She entered a small shop and picked a pair of pink zircon ones. She already knew she would probably lose them. She arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early. She asked the owner if the gentleman had booked a table. Yes, choose any table you like. She went downstairs to the restroom to freshen up. Looking in the mirror, she whispered to herself, You're here. You made it. She returned to the main room, standing, uncertain. Then she saw him come in, helmet in hand, tall, light eyes, slightly receding brown hair, glasses. He walked toward her, 2 kisses on the cheeks. It's been a year, he said. It's been a year, she echoed. They sat down. Others entered, greeting him. They sat at a nearby table. They work with me, he explained. He pointed to his phone. Google Translate, French or English? A bit of both, she replied, smiling. She asked, joking, Am I better in pictures or in person?